Okay. I think we're ready to go here, so good evening, and welcome to the Town of Aurora's Committee of Adjustment meeting. I will start by introducing the committee members and staff. I am the committee chair. My name is Tom Plamondon. To my left is Michelle Boyer, Steve D'Angeli, Daniel Lajeunesse, and Clarence Liu is the vice chair. The secretary treasurer is Antonio Greco, and our planner this evening is Matthew Peverini. For each application that will be considered tonight, the following process will occur. I will briefly outline the purpose of the applications, and then the applicant or agent will then be given an opportunity to make a presentation. However, one is not required. It is the applicant's decision whether they wish to speak or let the application proceed on the merits of the information as received. Following any initial comments from the applicant, I will invite members of the public who have an interest in the application to come forward and address the committee. Those members of the public who wish to speak must clearly state their name and address and sign the corresponding request for notice form on the table to my left, your right, in front of us. After completing the form, please hand it to the secretary treasurer. Each individual may speak only once on an issue, and once discussions have commenced in respect of a motion, no further presentations shall be made. If you require any assistance with regards to visual material or technical assistance, please let me know before making any presentation. This meeting is being audio and video recorded. Your name, address, comments, and any other personal information are being recorded according to the Municipal Act and the Municipal Freedom of Information and Protection of Privacy Act. I usually stumble on that one. This will help our town clerk prepare accurate minutes and to create a record that is available to the general public, including on the town's website. Questions about this collection should be directed to the town clerk. Please be advised that the reports being considered tonight are available also on the desk in front of us here. Should you wish to receive notification of the decisions for tonight's meeting, please complete the appropriate form. Owners and agents will automatically be notified. Please ensure that all questions and or comments are directed through me as the chair, and if relevant, I will request the appropriate person respond. It should be noted that the applicant will be given the opportunity to respond to any questions or comments should the committee feel that it is appropriate. So, with that, I'll look to the committee for approval of the agenda, please. Daniel?
Through the chair, I move that we approve the agenda for today's meeting. I'm not seeing a number, but for today's date of October 10th, 2019.
Thank you. Seconder? Michelle? All in favor? Thank you. I'll ask members of the committee if there are any declarations of pecuniary interest or general nature thereof. And seeing none at the table, thank you very much. I will note that the adoption of the minutes for September the 12th, 2019, that's meeting number 1909, are not available at this meeting for approval, so I'll ask for a motion that they be deferred. Anyone?
Thanks. Through you, Mr. Chair, I move that the Committee of Adjustment minutes of September 12, 2019, meeting number 19-09 be deferred.
Thank you. Seconder? Michelle? All in favor? All right, thank you. So we'll move forward then to presentation of the applications for this evening. So the first one is minor variance application Vitani and this is 10 Hawthorne Lane, minor variance MV 2019-11. And the purpose of application MV 2019-11A, Section 7.2 of the town zoning bylaw requires a minimum interior side yard setback of 3.0 meters. The applicant is proposing to construct two-story detached dwelling unit, which is 2.7 meters to the east interior side property line, thereby requiring a variance of 0.30 meter. Purpose of application MV 2019-11B, Section 5.6.1A II of the town's zoning bylaw allows a maximum driveway width of 10.0 meters if the lot frontage is 18 meters or greater, with the exception that the maximum driveway width at the street line shall not exceed 6 meters. The applicant is proposing a driveway width of 6.7 meters, thereby requiring a variance of 0.7 meters at the street line. Departments and agencies circulated. Planning Division, application reviewed subject to conditions. Building Division, preliminary zoning review. Engineering Division, applicant reviewed, no comments. Operational Services, application reviewed subject to conditions. Central York Fire Services, application reviewed, or application circulated, no comments. Received Electric Utilities, no comments received. York Region, application reviewed, no comments. I'll remind the committee that this application came before the council, this committee, sorry, previously, and that in the staff report, I'll draw attention to the fact that a number of the previous requested variances no longer apply, and therefore we are looking at a substantially modified request for variance. And I see the agent has arrived, and I'll welcome him. Good evening, sir. Not at all, please do. And while you do that, I'll just again remind the committee that there are conditions associated with this particular application, and I will make sure that the applicant has seen the conditions and is prepared to accept those conditions as appear in the staff report.
I'm Peter Higgins of Peter Higgins Architect Incorporated. I apologize for being late. I was visiting a friend's father at a funeral home. My son told me the staff report seemed okay, but I'm sorry, I personally haven't read it in terms of conditions.
So if you wish, let me then go through those recommendations
If
for
you
you
would, please, Mr.
very
Chairman.
quickly. That also allow you to catch your breath a little bit, Mr. Higgins.
Thank you very much.
And I'll just abbreviate them very quickly, unless staff, do you want to do that, or do you want me to do that? I have no problem doing it.
Through the chair, perhaps it would be time sensitive to maybe let the agent review the staff report and perhaps proceed with the next matter on the agenda in the meantime.
Mr. Higgins,
That's fine with me. Thank you
is
very much.
that fine with you?
Yes, it is.
All right, so with that, can I ask staff to make sure that Mr. Higgins does see the staff report? And I'll also ask Mr. Higgins, did you receive a copy of an email that this committee received from one of the neighbors?
No, I don't believe I did, but
So,
is that available to me? It was to me directly. I will check that.
so take a
Mr.
moment or
Dick,
two
I
and
will.
we'll come back to you.
Thank you so much.
All right, so So let us move to item 2 on the agenda then. And this is minor variance application MV 2019-23. A and 23B, and this is a minor variance application for 2300485 Ontario Inc. for 25 George Street. The purpose of application MV 2019-23A, Section 24.151.1 permits an apartment building with a maximum of 8 units to house a second stage supportive housing facility for physically and emotionally abused women and children. The applicant is proposing to add an apartment building with a maximum of 8 units as a permitted use. And the purpose of application MV 2019-23B, Section 24.151.4 requires an accessory structure, that being a refuge enclosure, to be located 0.5 meters, 1.6 feet, from the northerly property line. The applicant is proposing a setback of 0.24 meters, or 0.79 feet. Departments and agencies circulated. Planning Division, application reviewed, subject to conditions. Building Division, preliminary zoning review. Engineering Division, application reviewed, no comments. No comments received from Operational Services. Central York Fire Services, application circulated with no comments received. No comments received from Electric Utilities. York Region, application circulated, no comments received. And the conditions, again, are listed in the recommendations. Is the applicant or agent present? Good evening, sir, and welcome.
Thank you. Good evening, Mr. Chairman, members of committee. My name is Murray Evans. I'm a planning consultant retained by the new owner of this property. And if I... There it was. Not bad. Mr. Chairman, I am here with somewhat of an unusual request. I am asking that the committee permit an existing apartment building to be used as an apartment building. Somewhat convoluted, but this is a building, sir, that if anyone's been by, is a multiple unit building, has 8 units. It was built in about 1993, has existed there till recently, and has been the home of the Yellow Brick House, which has provided temporary social housing for people in need of such accommodation. They have moved it from the site in April of this year, and since that point in time, this building has been vacant. My client has acquired the property and would like to allow this to be used as an apartment building for rental purposes. Unfortunately, as you have a very unusual zoning permission on this property, we're here seeking your permission through Section 45(2) of the Act, wherein the committee can permit a use if it deems that it's conforming with the general provisions of the zoning bylaw. In this case, it's zoned for an apartment use. It just has a rider that is for, as you can see in the staff report prepared by Mr. Peverini, that it's very specific to who the user can be. So to clarify that for, I guess, a number of purposes, I guess initially for maybe municipalities, issues of releasing building permits, processing applications, and the like, and also for my client, who may need to get some funding and financing from various lending institutions. The permission, which I hope you will grant tonight, would allow that to go through a lot more simpler and cleaner and straightforward. So I believe it would be a benefit to all involved. It is, as the staff report indicates, there's no intention to modify the building internally or externally. There will be some site works that need to be made primarily with the realignment and reorganization of the parking area. So staff have indicated that a minor site plan control application will be required through that process. And my clients obviously will consent to that and get on with that right away. And interestingly enough, at the back of the site, for anyone who has been over, I guess sometime over the last 26 years, a refuse, oh, let me move that over, containing building, it's, with great, well, I'll say with modest commentary, it's a brick building with a gabled roof, so as garbage receptacles look, it is somewhat reasonable in design and shape. It's obviously designed so it can protect the elements or the exposure of the garbage outside. Clearly, the previous users used the bin. And it's the request under the normal 4 tests of the Act is to allow it to be 0.25 of a meter from the lot line as constructed. And as Mr. Peverine identified in his report, you can see that it's vegetated, it's screened by a fence, and through the reorganization of the parking lot will be rebuilt and repaved, and obviously the bin will be removed. So I will offer to the committee that it's my submission that these are reasonable requests to recognize an existing use that's been there for some 26 years, and I ask that the committee approve the applications as filed. I'll be pleased to answer any question you may have.
Thank you, sir. I'll just want to just go back for a second and just make sure that you've seen the other conditions of the staff report and you're in agreement with those. Thank you very much. So I'll ask then if there is anyone here from the public who wishes to speak to this application. Come forward, please. Good evening and welcome.
Thank you. My name is Donna Warden, and I'm a resident of 85 Wellington Street West, the condominium which is directly on the west side of George, coming in from George Street. I just have a couple of concerns that are mostly around traffic and parking, potential parking. I realize that this building has been zoned for apartment use, and that's not what it has been used for many years. 8 units, 2-bedroom. I am fearful that the proposed number of parking spaces will not be adequate for the building. Not many people, not many couples move in with one vehicle. Normally it's 2. I'm concerned about where overflow parking will go. We have already had a problem in my condominium parking lot with unauthorized parking who are not visiting us in our building. The last thing I want is to see my maintenance fees going towards having to put in a security feature to keep out unauthorized visitors. The road narrows when you come into George Street from Wellington. There's a narrow part, and then it opens up.
Let me just stop you just for 1 second. I'll just ask staff, can we put the map back up? Yeah, just
That previous map would be very helpful, thank you.
Yeah, there we go. And maybe just sort
Okay.
of zoom in a little bit, Antonio, if you can, so that we can see.
A little bit more, if you don't mind.
Okay.
Is it okay if I?
Yep, you can point.
Okay.
Yeah, sure.
Oh, it's just in this area here where it is narrow and then it widens a little bit. That's already taken up weekdays with what I believe are employees of Rest Haven. And so it already proves a little bit of congestion in that particular area. I'm in and out of there regularly. And there are times when I'm trying to make a turn from Wellington onto George Street, and I am hung up somewhat on Wellington because there's already a vehicle trying to exit George Street. My other concern is if it is a 2-bedroom, 8-unit, nothing that I don't have anything against families, but if there are going to be families, children, etc., we all pretty much know that kids don't just go down to the corner and along Wellington. I have a fear of shortcutting through our parking lot to either go to the public school or to the Aurora High School. We come out of our underground up a ramp, which means we've got a certain amount of speed to come up out of our ramp. Are we then going to be responsible for people who are young kids who are going to be bolting through our parking lot to cut the corner and, get to school faster? Again, I don't feel that I want to see it become necessary for us to start putting up fences to keep proposed, to keep our privacy, and any changes that would have to happen to our property, our parking lot, would be at our expense, which I don't want to see. I'm not saying that that's going to happen, but we all know the potential is there for things like that. The parking issue has already been proven because we have had issues of people helping themselves to our parking spaces in our visitor area. I feel that I don't know how and why, the road was widened to allow for the 4 or 5 or 6 vehicles that are already parked there. But certainly to, plug it up anymore, it would be an absolute disaster for us trying to come out of our driveway. Again, going back to the fact that I feel that it's probably going to be, a 2-bedroom, double income, more vehicles, accessing, coming out onto that street. It's going to make the traffic coming out from 7 in the morning till about 9 in the morning, people trying to make a left-hand turn to get out to Highway 400 or a right-hand turn trying to get to 404. Those are not fully functioning traffic lights. They're only there for pedestrian access. So as it is, without any other vehicles coming out of that parking lot, me coming out at various times to get to my part-time job, I'm stuck behind 2, 3, 4 vehicles at a time trying to make turns to get out onto Wellington. So I can only imagine that, potentially 8+ more vehicles is going to make that more difficult. I don't know if the answer would be, regardless of whether this proposal goes through and there's more vehicles, a fully functioning traffic light at that intersection would be a welcome change for all of us. Recently, there was a woman who was killed at that intersection 3 or 4 months ago. I think she was hit by someone on a motorcycle. I don't begin to know all the details of it. I just know that it was an accident that happened there. In the 4 years that I've been there, I've seen an increase in the traffic from George Street. And I believe that small houses that have been there, that have sold, are being torn down. Bigger houses are going up, not only along George Street, but all of those feeder streets that come out from George in between Wellington and Kennedy. What could have been seniors who are not going out to work every day, those houses are coming down and being replaced, more than likely with 2 vehicles coming out to try to access either 400 or 404. And so, the traffic has increased already. It's become a problem, more and more of a problem in the 4 years that I've been there. I've noticed it. I'm just concerned about what additional vehicles traffic is going to do. That's the one proposal. The second piece of property that I see that's been sold, is that going to add some additional at some point? Is this just the beginning of a problem that's going to double when that other situation comes before you? I don't know. So, thank you for letting me raise my concerns.
Thank you very much. Thank you.
Do I?
You can, yes, please. Just let us, let the committee secretary know who you are and your address there. I guess I have to ask if there's anyone else who wishes to speak to this application, and seeing none. Yes, by all means, Mr. Evans, if you want to speak to some of the concerns, I guess, that have been raised, if you have any information. I know that there was a traffic study that was done. All right, thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. If I may just respond. As you can see from the air photo, sir, and members of the committee, there's a sidewalk system here. So is there always a possibility of people from this building trespassing and walking across the greenery? Yes, it's somewhat remote when you have the ability to take a sidewalk to get to another sidewalk, that you would leave the sidewalk, cross grass to get to that sidewalk. So is it a possibility? Yes, it is. It's an unlikely possibility. And again, if I can just perhaps, and I'll say this a few times in my rebuttal, it's 8 units. So, and it's 8 existing units. So the population generated out of this, if at 2 people per house, I think we'll look at population statistics for apartments, they average around 1.9 or 2. So you might have 16 people in total living in this building if there's not any sole occupancies. So the statistically, the opportunities for, shall I dare I say, bad or adverse impacts from this being used or to be continued to be used as an apartment in my submission are quite minimal. As you indicated, Mr. Chairman, staff also had the same issue. Firstly, the zoning bylaw requires 9 parking spaces. That's what the obligation is for this site, and 9 parking spaces will be provided on the site. So zoning compliance will be met. I'm not here asking for parking relief. To support the adequacy of the parking on site, a traffic and parking study was prepared. This has been submitted to the municipality. The municipality's reviewers have looked at it, and as you have indicated, sir, there are no objections or concerns. Within this area, as you know, as you get closer to the Yonge Street, I believe it's on Temperance, there's municipal parking lots. So for overflow parking, there is the ability to park within 1 block of this site on a public parking space. There is street parking, but no one ever likes to use that as the crutch for visitor parking. But there is the ability to do that, and as I indicated, there is public parking. As you can see from those air photos, Mr. Chairman, there is apartment uses on this street. It's consistent, and we are adding or continuing to use this building for 8 units. I would again say that the traffic being generated out of this would be quite modest. So we know there's going to be potentially 8 or 9 vehicles on this site. A 2-hour peak movement in either in the morning or the evening, assuming they're split equally, is 4 vehicles per hour in a peak hour in the morning. That's 1 car every 15 minutes. I do not live in the area, so I can't attest to the traffic issues, but I think I can confidently say that adding 1 car every 15 minutes statistically will be nominal, if any, impact on the operations of the intersections or the road. And I guess in one sense, having only the ability to park 9 vehicles controls how many people or how many cars can be on this site. Yes, maybe people would like to have 2 or 3 cars, but you are not going to rent a space here because you cannot park overnight in the winter conditions. So there's a cap on the number of vehicles that can be hosted by this site. And traffic, I indicated very minimal in my estimation, and perhaps as redevelopment takes place in this, and it may continue, that will be an issue that the municipality and perhaps the region, because Wellington's a regional road, will have to grapple with. But again, I would offer to the committee that the continued use of this building, existing building as an apartment, would be minimal impact on the neighborhood and the community. And I sincerely believe that there'll be negligible effects on the delegates' property and the need to fence it because 8 units are to be here. So I'll leave that, and I'll be pleased to answer any questions if you have any of me.
Thank you. Any questions from, or comments from the committee? Daniel, good? Yeah, go ahead. Michelle?
Ken, you had indicated this is going to be a rental apartment building? And with the rental of each of the units, will it state that there is 1 vehicle per unit that comes with the unit?
Through the chair, that would be the arrangement. If someone, for example, one person chooses not to have a parking space, they don't need it, there's bus service on Wellington, they work on Yonge Street, then obviously that space could be available for another unit. But that's all there is. They can't provide any more than what exists. So roundabout answer to your question, yes.
Okay, thank you.
Anything, Stephen?
Thank you. Through you, Mr. Chair, more of a comment, just regarding the concerns raised by the community, which I think are valid concerns for people living in the area. However, I would note that the existing use is for battered and abused women and their children. So I don't believe that there's a change in tendency in that aspect. And as has been noted, that the parking the parking situation is in conformity with the zoning for the property. So the comments that the comment regarding the non-fully functioning stoplight, I think, is a valid one, and one that I would recommend that is just clarified with town with respect to the traffic study, and that is what I would encourage the community to the avenue to pursue. Thank you.
Thank you. You know, I'm gonna echo that comment. You know, perhaps obviously the town did look at the demand for parking, and it meets the requirements of the bylaw. I would have make a general assumption in thinking that if the building had been used by Yellow Door all of these years, you know, for, you know, battered women and in those kind of circumstances, chances are there may have been, in reality, a much lower demand for parking, you know, for potentially, well, for obvious reasons. And, you know, with it, the use being expanded in a very general sense, Mr. Evans, as you mentioned, it's an apartment building. We're asking the committee to make it an apartment building. Obviously, the previous use and the impacts of that use on parking and traffic, I think, would have been somewhat less than what they will become if the committee approves this. We're not here because there is a parking shortage, although with 8 units, 9 spots, 1 being handicapped, I would imagine that visitor parking will be a little bit of a challenge, and I would assume that those visitors would be parking out on the street. And my comment on that was, when I went there today, I was there very early this morning, and I would agree with the comments that were expressed. When I came out of there this morning, there were a number of cars on George Street backed up to Wellington, and as I was turning out, I had to wait. On the way to the meeting this evening, I went by it again, and if you look at your air photo, there are 4 cars parked there on the west side. And when I went by this evening, there were 3 cars parked there. I think the issues that have been raised unrelated to the application are valid. That traffic light at Wellington is pedestrian generated. It's on demand. There will be another condominium built next door, or another development coming forward on the property next door that will add additional traffic. And I'm going to suggest as well in my comments that maybe staff ask the traffic folks here at the town and the region to put it on the radar to really not only look at the traffic study that was done for this particular application based on this particular use, that maybe perhaps a higher level traffic study be done for this area, because I couldn't agree more. I'm up and down Wellington every day, and I've seen some pretty close calls over the last 20 odd years that I've lived in the community there. I don't think Mr. Evans needs to comment any further on that aspect of it. You've done your work, sir. So I don't think if there's any other questions, I'm going to look to the committee for a motion on this application. Stephen?
Thank you. Through you, Mr. Chair, I move that minor variance application MV-219-23A and minor variance application MV-219-23B be approved,
Subject to conditions.
subject to conditions as outlined in the staff report and acknowledged by the applicant.
Seconder? Daniel? Thank you. And all in favor? And that carries.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you. So we were going to backpedal on our agenda, members, and come back to 10 Hawthorne. And I won't go through the applications and what they are here for. That has already been brought into the record. So, Mr. Higgins, I'll let you comment and or bring us back up to speed with all of the changes that have occurred.
The front porch. We've stepped the facade at the garage. We are here to ask you for a minor variance for part of the side where we have a 1-foot variance, but only for a portion of the side yard, and the other variance is for the width of the driveway, which essentially is slightly over. And yes, we could have narrowed the driveway at the street, but we're utilizing the existing curb cut for the most part. And in order to be able to park the appropriate number of cars, we hope you will grant the extra width in the driveway. I have read the staff report fully. I fully accept, as does my client, the recommendations, and I note the email from Mr. Hunt, who I spoke with a couple of months ago, and I would say that we certainly hope this house will be built according to these plans. The reason why there's a for sale sign up is they simply want to start marketing it in the hopes that they can pre-sell, if that's possible. I certainly hope this is what they will be building. I plan to make sure my client does that. So that's my submission, and I hope you will agree with the changes we made are all for the benefit of the neighbors.
Thank you very much, Mr. Hunt. And
Higgins.
yeah, I'm sorry. I was thinking about Mr. Hunt there for a moment. Mr. Higgins, thank you. I wonder if the car comes with the new home. Sorry, I just had to do that. Yeah, and I appreciate that the elevations have changed substantially, that there is a greater degree of conformity. I do want to make sure that that second condition, which is very specific, that the variance applies only to the subject property in substantial conformity with the plans attached as a Appendix C, which are the elevations and site plan. So, and I know that you've just mentioned that that you intend to make sure that your client does build what we are looking at. It's one of the things that, you know, once something like this goes onto the public record, and you'll recall that we did have a number of people come forward, you know, they're going to be watching and are going to count on the fact that because that condition is there and because the drawings and the site plan and what have you are part of this minor variance application, that what we are looking at is what we will see there. And there's no one else here, so I don't think I need to ask if there's anyone from the public who wishes to address. But I will look to the committee if there are any comments or questions of the applicant. Everyone on my right was good. On my left, please go right ahead, Michelle. Thank you.
So, you know, the changes from June to today are great. You know, I think it's a massive improvement to the overall design and staying within the rules or as set forth, or the zoning bylaw rules and so on. But you're why the 0.3 meters? Like, why can't you just stay within?
It's a very good point. It has to do with being able to, and I'll show you the other drawings that shows it better. In stepping the facade here at the two doors, we think that's a better way to introduce the two doors rather than having one great big door. The stepping there requires an extra foot to be able to have the wall, which
Okay, thank you.
Finish illustrating that point. Is what I mean. Have the variance 1 foot here, but then increase the setback well beyond meters. We're at 5 meters behind the garage.
Stephen has a question for you.
Yeah, thank you. Through you, Mr. Chair. More of a comment. I would just like, first of all, thank you for that answer. I had the same question as Michelle. I would just like to commend you and staff. I think that this is, a much better design, especially for the neighborhood. I know you had mentioned to us that wasn't necessarily, the original design wasn't necessarily what you would have proposed, and I would suspect that this is more so in line with what you would propose, and I would like to commend all of you on bringing this forward and the minor nature of these variances. So that's my comment.
Thank you. So with that, I will ask for a motion on the variances requested. Stephen, thank you.
Thank you. Through you, Mr. Chair, I would like to move that minor variances MV-2019-11A and 11B are approved, subject to the conditions outlined in the staff report.
Thank you. Seconder for that motion. Daniel, thank you very much. All in favor? And that carries. Thank you very much. Well done. Thank you. All right. Have a good evening. On the agenda, item 3, minor variance application MV 2019-16, there has been a request for deferral of the application. And we're going to look for a motion to accept that, I guess. Do we need a motion? Yeah, we do need a motion to defer. So I'll look for a motion to defer item number 3. We can, do you want to do all, can we do all 4, Antonio, at once, or do you want to do them separately?
Through the chair, it is on the agenda, so you can recommend deferral. You can do all at once.
Thank
all
you.
at once.
So, and I believe, yeah, these are all tied, if I'm not mistaken. So because of that fact, I'll look for a motion then. And when a motion comes forward for items 3, 4, actually there's 2 4s on there, so let's correct that. So it'll be 3, 4, 5 will become the second 4, and 6 will become 5. I saw that on the agenda. I meant to correct it before we started the meeting, so I'm sorry. I missed that. So we'll look at item 3, 4, 5, and 6 with a single motion to accept the applicant's request for a deferral. Thank you, Antonio.
There we go. All right. Through the chair, I move that we accept the applicant's request to defer the applications numbered 3 through 6 as requested.
And so those would be MV 2019-16, MV 2019-17, and consent applications, sorry, yes, MV 2019-16, MV 2019-17, consent application 2019-08, and consent application 2019-10.
Correct.
And is there a seconder for that motion? Michelle, thank you. All in favor? And that carries. Thank you. Thank you. Any new business from members of the committee? Seeing none. Staff, anything new?
Through the chair, the minor variance application at 29 Church Street received a pre-hearing date. The date is October 30th, which would be the end of the month, in the council chambers, 10 a.m. if I'm not mistaken, but they just did receive a pre-hearing date.
Thank you. I also noted that on the Henderson applications that came before this committee, council came forward with a motion to support the Committee of Adjustments recommendations at the appeal hearing. I'm not sure. Do we know when that? Is there any schedule on that? Do we know? No information on that at the moment. Okay.
Through the chair, not at this time.
Not at this time? All right. Thank you for that update. Appreciate that. So I'll look to the committee for a motion to adjourn. Michelle? So moved. We are adjourned. Thank you very much.